my
I
own
mean, I might have
handwriting.
put it in the wrong spot too. I'm pretty drunk. So. Viewers, let us know in the comments below who screwed that up.
And if Jason's too drunk.
Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends and fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. Some upcoming artists we are covering are The Rolling Stones, Quicksand, and Jimmy Eat World. Rolling Stones might already be out by now. Who knows? If those interest you, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Today we are talking about Jimi Hendrix, the man responsible for such classics like Purple Haze, Fire. Fire. Check out Blaze by Stephen King or Richard Bachman. Mr. King, we know you are a fan of Hendrix. Let us know on Twitter which album is your favorite. We were going to swing by All Along the Dark Tower, but, let us know, King. Colquitt had to back out of this one due to his busy schedule. So with that, with me today, he's been to Electric Ladyland, Tim.
How's it going?
And he's been on a few one-off episodes here and there, but making his full discography debut. Hey, Joe.
Yo.
Nailed that one.
In 1983, a mermaid, he should turn into be a Jason.
Oh, I got some things to say about that song. I like that one. All right, so Tim, you picked this discography. As you can see, we have 10 albums to discuss. Do you want to give any background on the albums that we chose for this, or do you want to wait until we just go individually?
I can, sure, because obviously there's a whole bunch of official releases that could have been included, some of which I think are better than some of the ones we did, but we'll get to that. Obviously, I did the 3 albums that were released in his lifetime, plus Band of Gypsies. I feel like that's an important release that was, around when he was. And then the following 6, you got the first 3 attempts at what was going to be the 4th album. And then you've got the last 3 official releases, which were the family's attempt at the 4th album and, whatever else tapes they had laying around. But they're all like officially released albums that have merit. So I felt like that would be pretty wide-ranging and comprehensive discography for the show without we could have condensed the last 6 probably into the New Rays of the Cosmic Sun double album. But then we'd only have 5 to choose from. So there was a little bit of strategy going into it as well. And it's Jimi Hendrix. I mean, the more you hear, the better off you are. So
I thought Band of Gypsies was released in his lifetime. It wasn't?
It was, yeah.
Okay,
that's why
yeah,
it's included here. Because I'm going to consider that like an actual album.
All right. So do you want to do your color coding first, Tim?
Sure. I think that I'm going to go 10 through 6 are yellow. And then, 10 through 7 are yellow. And then 6 through 1 are going to be green.
So what about 7?
7's yellow.
Okay.
Actually, no, let's change it. Let's make 7 green. I think that's going to be a lot better.
All right. I'm going to be the bad guy here. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are green. And I'm going to say I'm going to say 2.
He's got some red. You got some red, huh?
I got some red. I got some do not recommends.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Be a villain on this show. Maybe we ought to do a new thing where the villain gets slapped at the end of the episode. Just a slap button. I don't know.
Or we just move your camera like crooked a little bit. There you go. Perfect.
All right, Joe, what about you? What are your colors?
Okay, I'm going to say 1 through 5 are green, and then 6, 7, and 8 are yellow, and then 9 or 10 are big gnaw.
Okay.
All right. So I'm not the only villain. Till you see the pics.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting on.
I mean, honestly, I feel like there are some albums here that were just money grabs.
We'll get into it. We'll get
You
into
know what I
it.
mean?
So
I could see that. Sure. Okay.
They're like,
starting out.
we have three songs and then another version of "I Hear My Train A-Comin'." Let's throw it on there.
Go ahead and talk about that song. Get into that one. Fucking train coming rolling. So relationship with the artist. Jimmy was in my house. I thought my dad had already experienced, but he didn't. I guess all he had was smash hits. So this is the Jimmy that I knew growing up, and then meeting you guys and other people, and Jimmy's the best, and hearing stuff here and there, but I had never heard anything past Electric Ladyland, so all that was new for me. That's my short introduction. What about you, Tim? What's your relationship with Jimmy?
I'm not even really sure where it would have began. It's always been there, I guess. Just playing the drums, Mitch Mitchell would have been someone that I would have been told to have listened to. You hear the songs all over the place. Foxy Lady was in Wayne's World. I really kind of did my own personal deep dive on Jimi Hendrix. So about 20 years ago, I was really just kind of in a big 60s, early 70s mood, checking out all the big bands. And so did the dive. There's a whole bunch of live shows out there. I love listening to live shows in general. Usually doesn't matter who it is. And so, yeah, I've been enjoying Jimi Hendrix for 30, 35 years, something like that. Wow.
All right. Did you hear that live? They just put out Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts. Jimmy doing that.
Yeah, they're finally putting out that whole show.
That's cool, but like the sound quality was awful.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's going to be the cleanest one there is probably, but I've heard like some really bad bootlegs of that show in the past. And, it's cool that he was able to play that song live a couple of days after it was released and people were still trying to figure it out. And he's up there playing it on stage. It's cool.
Yeah,
it's novel.
And the Beatles were in the audience.
And the Beatles were in the audience. Because he was the flavor of the year all around London every time he was there.
Well, at that point, hadn't he only been in London for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks? He'd kind of just gotten there at that point. But he just kind of immediately blew up because of hanging out with the right people and being a badass.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll get into that, like Linda McCarthy and the artwork in an upcoming video. What about you, Joe? What's your relationship with Jimmy?
Well, I mean, I'm a guitar player and my dad was a huge fan. So as soon as I started becoming a guitar player, my dad was like, check this out. And I mean, my records are downstairs, so I forgot to bring them up. But I have an original pressing of Are You Experienced and an original pressing of Axis Balls' Love that were my dad's that he bought at a store for like $2 or something.
Big money.
Yeah, they're worth something now. They're special. But yeah, just as a guitar player, early teens, I was learning learning a lot of, like, one of the first songs I learned was All Along the Watchtower. That's the first song I learned the whole solo to when I was a teenager.
All right. So with that, are we ready to get into the first one?
Let's do it.
Well, no, because it's going to be in my top 4.
It's in my top 4.
It's in my top 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move right along to Axis. It's in my top 4.
Also me. Yes.
I think it's going to be my number 5.
You son of a bitch.
I like it. I think the high points on this album are top tier Jimmy, but I also think that it's a little experimental in places where it shouldn't be, and it's also a little. I think the low points aren't the best. Like, oh man, what was it? It was. I mean, Up from the Skies is okay. Ain't No Tellin' was good, but it's not like top tier Jimmy. It's a great album, though. It is a great album. And like I say, the high points are going to be on the top songs for sure. But yeah, I think there are 4 other ones that are better.
All right. I'm sure we'll get into that one deeper.
Yeah, we will, I'm sure.
Electric. That one's in my top 3 or top 4.
Ditto. Yep.
Yeah, yep.
Gypsies.
It's in my top 4.
It's not in my top 4.
Not in my top 4. I can talk about this one.
Okay.
All right. 6 live tracks. Machine Gun is epic. Power Love's decent. I love the drums on Who Knows. But not a whole lot to talk about here for me. That's where I'm at on that one.
I mean, truthfully, for me, this was kind of because I was obsessed with Jimi Hendrix when I was like a teenage, like early teens and tweens, and then I kind of grew out of him for a little while. And then when I was about 17, somebody played me this record, and I got obsessed with it for a while. I actually had the sheet music somewhere. So I do love these songs, but okay, so I need to explain my thoughts on guitar masturbation. And I mean, really any kind of masturbation, but specifically on this one, guitar masturbation. Like, it's fun to watch and listen to, but like any other kind of masturbation, it's always more fun, for the person doing it. So, like, I feel like there's a little bit of that on here. Like, I feel like just generally Jimi Hendrix avoids that. He's pretty good. He's pretty good at incorporating solos into compositions.
Mm-hmm.
And I acknowledge that at this point in his career, there are a lot of people that were specifically going to see this show just to see him play guitar. But there's just songs here that like drift too long, and which makes it kind of hard for me to listen to these days. Like I guess I've grown more ADD with my age or whatever. Like I can't sit and listen to like long guitar solos often. I do think it's a brilliant album though. Like Message of Love, I love that song. Changes, which I think Buddy Miles wrote that one, but that was the reason I bought the sheet music was Changes. I loved that, wah solo at the beginning. Like that riff is just badass. And honestly, Machine Gun, even though it is really long guitar solo, I do feel like he tells a good story with his guitar solo. I just don't sit through it very often.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Machine Gun is definitely the top of the. Saying that though, this is my number 10.
Wow.
As an album, 6 live tracks. I'm not into it. I think there's better stuff.
It's number 5 for me.
I know that's the hot take. So
I mean, that's a
I,
hot take, but you tend to do that with live albums anyway, anytime they pop in. So,
I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not a huge fan of live albums myself, so I understand.
well, I am a fan of live albums, especially ones that capture just incredible performances. Um, and this is definitely one of them. So,
All right. So that takes care of he was alive. So now we're into the first posthumous record.
and this one came out like only a couple months after he passed. There is some debate about how much input he had on this one, but I feel out of all of them, this would be the one he had the most input on.
We're doing top fours, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is in my top four.
Yeah, it's in my top four.
Okay. Yeah, it's my number 6. I do like it a lot. I think it's like Freedom is top tier, Easy Riders top tier, Angels top tier. Drifting was pretty good. Um, the rest of it, I feel like, is average at best. I think so. I think it's a really good album, and I think that yeah, the couple singles or whatever are really strong. But yeah, it does just kind of feel a little feels like it's missing something for me.
See, one of my top songs is going to be, I guess, a deep cut on this one.
Okay,
It's one of
that's
them I
cool.
really liked. All right. Rainbow Bridge. I could talk
I,
about it.
I can talk about it too.
Let's go.
I mean, it's got "Hear My Train a Coming" on it, which
Yep.
we all know is pretty rare to hear that song. I mean, honestly, for me, it's pretty forgettable. Actually, I had this one on vinyl. This is one I've had for a long time, and one of the handful that I've listened to outside of the original like four or whatever. Um, and I've never been super into it. Like I feel like it's pretty forgettable, and that's why it's my number 7.
I went chronological with my listen, except for War Heroes. That one I saved to the end. The Rainbow Bridge, Dolly Dagger. I like this one. Plus more.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Oh, okay. Okay, so he throws some shade at Superman. Yeah, look at old burnout Superman trying to shoot his dust on the sun. Did not like Earth Blues. The love background vocals ruined this one for me. Pally Gap. While it was an amazing song, that guitar, holy shit, I feel like it's unfinished. Was it always meant to be an
Mm-hmm.
instrumental, or does anybody know?
I probably not.
Room Full of Mirrors was weird as shit. Maybe if I would have dropped some Lucy in the Sky, I would have enjoyed it. I don't know. I've only ever heard the Woodstock version of Star Spangled Banner, so it was interesting hearing a studio version. While it's not as good as the live one, this one is still pretty fantastic. Okay, Look Over Yonder was great. ACAB in full force. Train's okay. Not a fan of random live track in the middle of an album. Mind you, this is the first time I had heard Hear My Train Coming. Not a
Oh,
fan of
it's
a.
gonna keep coming.
Dude, I used to love that song, man. Like when I was a kid, I saw that movie that has him in the white room with the 12-string guitar playing it, and I used to
Yeah.
love. I was like, that's amazing. And then I started digging into these albums. I'm like, man, they must have just not had enough material to work with because he's dead. Because they
Yeah.
just kept throwing it on records, you know.
I'm not a fan of live songs right in the middle of a record. Hey Baby was decent. Felt like old Hendrix. The bass sounds really good on this one. This album though really feels like they're just cashing in on whatever they can scrape it up at this point. There are a few gems, but this is not a whoa, it changed. Must have changed opinions on that because this is a must listen. It's my number 5.
Oh,
I did actually really dig this version of the Star Spangled Banner. Like I like I've done the experience where I smoked a bunch of pot and then laid on my living room floor and listened to this record, and that one took me there. You know.
yeah. I think like any Jimi Hendrix release, it's gonna do what it intends to do. But for me personally, especially like listening to this whole like sequence in order and like actually paying attention, like I really Dolly Dagger is the high point of the album, and it just kind of falls down after that. Like you said, I love "Hear My Train a Comin'," but I don't need to hear it 20 times. Um,
2 of my top songs are coming from this record.
right
I
on.
mean,
That's how it moved up.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
I'm putting it at number 9. It's pretty
dude, that
low on my list.
that video of him playing "Hear My Train a Coming" on the 12-string acoustic guitar and
Is the best version of it.
it's amazing. That's all you need. You
Yeah.
know?
Is that
And
this
it's
version?
cool. I don't know how many times they attempted it in the studio or how many
I
times it's been
I looked it
remixed.
I looked it up and they said there were like 12 versions of it that they had recordings of, and they're just like, as long as they're releasing his albums, I think they're just going to keep putting them
Just
on
put
there.
them on. Okay. Okay.
The next record needs to be called
Hear My Train
Hear My Train a
and
Comin'.
have all 12 of them.
Part 1 through 12. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, what we got next? War Heroes. So this was the last one I had listened to because it wasn't on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Isabella was good. I'd already heard it on People, whatever. Same with Stepping Stone. I really like the Three Little Bears, and it doesn't have Train on it, so that helps at this point. Yeah, I had Jimmy fatigue by the time I got to this one.
I mean, I really couldn't get into this one. There were some moments here and there, but yeah, I tried, and I don't know. I did listen to it, the whole thing, but only once, and then didn't have any urges to go back to it. It's my number 10.
Yeah, it's my number 10 as well. I think that all the songs here are decent enough that, yeah, I mean, if you want to hear them, you're going to find some value here. I don't think it's complete, in the red. But out of all of these releases, it would be the one I would listen to last. Unless, of course, I found like an actual vinyl pressing. Then I would pick it up immediately since it's not streaming in any normal fashion. So it's kind of for the collectors.
This one is my number 8. I was burnt. I was spent at this point. Also, there was less new stuff on it because I had heard these 3 before I heard that one. So maybe chronologically it would have been higher if I listened to it, but I don't think so. There's not a whole lot there anyway. So that leads us to Valley of Neptune.
Well, this is going to be the one I have. Okay. I think it's a fine album, and I think I'll save it because it'll be in my top 4.
Oh, wow. All right. It's not in my top 4, so Stone Free was okay. Valleys is good. Bleeding Heart has good energy. Like the studio Train much better than the live one. This is the second time I had heard Train. I like this one a lot. Mr. Bad Luck was just Look Over Yonder. I'm sure there were differences, but really, Sunshine was cool as hell with that long ass palm muted riff. Another Fire. Red House was long and dull. Lullaby and Crying Blue Rain sound like an unfinished songs. I mean, it's Jimmy, so there's nothing really bad here, but there's nothing really necessary for me either. It's my number 6.
Yeah, this one was just kind of completely forgettable for me. I mean, I like Stone Free, but that was the first original song he recorded with Stone Free. So like, there's lots of versions of it that exist all over the place. Um, and yeah, it's just nothing really. I mean, Sunshine of Your Love was neat, but it's not the Cream version. And I mean, I did like guitar sound on it, but I like it just, yeah, there was nothing really that captured me about this album. That's why it's my number 9.
Ooh, we're going to be all over the place here. This is going to get interesting. All right. People, Hell, and Angels. Earth Blues, again. You're just repeating and cash
Again.
grabbing here. This version did sound better than the other one, but the Love, Love, Love is still there, so nope. Jimmy Fatigue is set in. Look, it's the third time I've heard a train a coming. Isabel and Crash Landing were good. By the time Inside Out played, Jimmy Fatigue had kicked in. It just sounded like some other Jimmy song I had already heard. Maybe I did. I don't know. Mojo Man didn't even really sound like Jimmy. Not sure what that was. If you really, really, really like Jimi Hendrix, you'll probably get something out of this, but it was a pass for me.
Yeah, it's kind of a pass for me too. I do really like Somewhere. I think that's a
Yeah,
really good song.
I like I like Somewhere. Yeah, that's a good one. Super
Yeah.
solid.
But the rest of it kind of just feels like cleaner versions of stuff we've already heard.
I don't know. I absolutely love Hear My Train a Coming. I am all about it. All about it.
Well, that's good because we're going to hear it again.
We're gonna hear it again. No, I dug Easy Blues. It didn't really sound like a Jimi Hendrix song, but it piqued my interest just because I'd been listening so much of Jimmy's stuff that it was nice to hear something that kind of like strayed a little bit.
That's true. Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly, I generally like this album, but it did seem. I mean, it was a cash grab album. It was for sure a cash grab album. I'd heard most of these songs before, and but I put it at number 6 as a cash grab album. So that kind of tells you how I feel about a lot of the other ones.
Well, you already have a Rainbow at 6.
Oh, Rainbow was supposed to be at 7. This was supposed to be at 6. Sorry, I misread my own
I might have
handwriting.
put it in the wrong spot too. I'm pretty drunk. So. Viewers, let us know in the comments below who screwed that up.
And if Jason's too drunk.
Always.
Yeah, this one's pretty low for me. Actually, it's going to be my number 8. It's a listen, but I think that out of all of these, I'm going to choose Others first, and it just kind of lands at number 8 by default.
Yeah, it's my number 7 just because I mean the Earth Blues, it did sound better than the previous version I'd heard, but I just didn't care for that song that much anyway, so it is cleaned up, but all right. Both Sides of the Sky. Wasn't very long ago. We're getting Jimi Hendrix records.
Yeah, this was actually the first time I actually had sat and listened to this one. I didn't check it out when it came out, and I found it to be surprisingly good. I thought it was a lot bluesier than I expected it to be, and yet also that cover of Manish Boy sounds very Jimi Hendrix and not Muddy Waters, little disappointed Stepping Stone isn't a Monkees cover, but that's okay. I thought the cover of Woodstock was a little unnecessary.
Joni Mitchell.
Steven Stills was on it.
Oh, on this one or the original?
He was on this one. That was him singing on this one. He was also on.
Okay.
He was also singing on $20 Fine.
Okay. I did not catch that. Okay. Right on. Okay. That's cool.
Which is probably why they went with it, with those versions for the, for the money grab.
That makes a lot more sense. Yeah. I did like Power of Soul here. Sounded great. And I really liked Georgia Blues. I thought that was a good song. So, yeah, other than, personal reasons why I like Valleys of Neptune, I think of these last three, this one was actually pretty good. So it's my number 7, which I believe is the beginning of my must hears. Yeah.
Interesting. Manish Boy was okay. Oh my god, I have heard this fucking train a-coming. I don't want to hear this train again. This one doesn't even sound
Give
as
it
good
4
as the
years,
one
you'll hear it again.
This one don't even sound as good as the one on People. Georgia was good. Woodstock, Send My Love to Linda was interesting. But Jimmy fatigue was in full effect at this point. My notes just say I'm done because I thought I was done because I forgot I hadn't heard the original. So it is my number 9.
Okay.
So Manish Boy, I just could. I mean, it sounded like Jimmy, but I'm stuck in the mud, man. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like it didn't sound right to me. And I think for me the most interesting 2 tracks were the last 2. The song "Send My Love to Linda" and Cherokee Miss, because I feel like those were like just the most interesting to me. Also, something that I found interesting in these recordings, it sounded like he was using a big muff in a few of them. Like I'm pretty sure he was using a big muff in Manish Boy, and I'm pretty sure he was using a big muff in "Send My Love to Linda," which he historically.
Well, he pretty much was the innovator of the big muff, wasn't he?
No. He was known for using a fuzz face.
Okay, I got you.
Like
okay.
I actually, after listening to it, because I was just like, man, is Jimi Hendrix using a big muff? And I looked it up, and apparently the dude from Electro Harmonics claims that he sold one to him at some point, but I couldn't find anything else that said Jimi Hendrix used a big muff, because he kind of, was known for using a fuzz face. I mean, part of the reason I think my favorite fuzz pedal is a fuzz face because I grew up listening to Jimi Hendrix,
That makes sense. Okay, sure.
But yeah, Cherokee Mist I think was definitely my highlight of this record, because he's playing a sitar. Like Jimmy's playing a sitar, and it's obviously Jimmy playing it because you can recognize the style, but it's a sitar, and I thought that song was cool, but the rest of the album was fairly forgettable for me. I put it at number 8.
Right. Yeah, we are all over the place here. So my notes, I'm gonna have to fucking find my. This is when my notes get out of order because. All right. So number 4. My number 4 is "The Cry of Love." Reading up on this one, this is only like half of the 4th album. I don't know, that whole 4th album thing is weird. As I kept reading, Easy Rider was cool. I like Nightbird Flying. Straight Ahead was great. Astro Man, I don't think that one would survive today's climate. but taking it and placing it in its time, I cracked it. I've never really cared for Superman, lame superhero. Angel was sweet, but not for me. About 2 minutes in from the storm just speeds up and kicks ass. Belly Button Window is fantastic. It's a bluesy song with great lyrics. There are some pretty good tracks here, but it just doesn't feel like a full album. So it's my number 4. All right, Tim, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Valleys of Neptune. There is a warmth to this recording or this collection. I don't know what they did to master this album, but this thing just sounds amazing to me. And I like, it's probably my favorite version of Red House. I think the versions of Stone Free and Fire are both really interesting because they're not the ones you're used to, you know? And then, yeah, I think like Bleeding Heart's really cool. I really like this version of Hear My Train a Comin'. You know, if you're going to have it, you got to pick one, right?
You don't have to pick one.
Yeah,
you pick
every
like
time
7.
I listen to this version of Sunshine of Your Love, I just love the fact that he's playing the guitar part and the vocal melody. And it just kind of blows my mind every time. And I really like that version of it. Plus, they, do the extended funk jam in the middle. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And of all of the posthumous albums, this is the one that I would reach for first. Just probably out of nostalgia. I picked it up when it came out, and I listened to it quite a bit. I liked it, and still do. I think it's a great album.
My number 4 is The Cry of Love. And it's largely because I thought Freedom and Drifting were really just really good tracks. They sounded like Hendrix tracks. Like they sounded like what I kind of looked for from Hendrix. Like, my personal, like what I like about Hendrix is, the psychedelic aspect, the guitar playing, and then the kind of spacey Bob Dylan-esque lyrics that he uses. Like, and I feel like, especially Drifting has that in spades. And then Freedom's just a good like rock song. Like, it's just a solid rock song, and really probably my favorite of the rock songs that I heard all that weren't on the original 3 records. So like I feel like those 2 songs kind of showed you the direction he was going. Whereas a lot of the records that came out after he died, I think, he played with everyone, so he knew a lot of songs. So I almost wonder if he was just recording some of that stuff more as like jams in the studio, and less of like how much of that stuff would end up on records.
Sure. How much of it's just testing rooms and or mics and or amps.
And then Angel's one of my favorite of his songs. Like that's his song. He wrote it about a dream about his mom. So yeah.
All right, so we are in the top 3. This is a good time to cut to a commercial. And because Colquitt's not here, we're going to give him a shout out. He loves wrestling, so stick around. Commercial, Hulkamania, am I right? So top 3, we're in the good stuff now, the great stuff, the iconic stuff. Tim, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is going to be Band of Gypsies. This is an amazing record. It really is. Yeah, it's a live album, and there's a bunch of live Jimmy out there. They're all good. They're all worth a listen. This one, though, just feels really special. It was a New Year's Eve show, I believe, and there's just an energy on there that is awesome. New band for Jimmy, you got Buddy Miles and Billy Cox. And
well, let me ask you this: so if this isn't a full show though, right? It's only 6 songs.
Well, it's basically a full show. They he did multiple shows, and they kind of like did the best performances from each show, kind of thing. So it's a little chopped up.
At this
but
point,
it's basically a show.
At this point in his career, he was like super, super, super tired of playing like the hits from the first 3 Experience albums. So he was just trying to get away from that.
He would just get up, and he knew people just wanted to see him play, so he would just get up and play, and they'd kind of loosely do some songs. And
well, he was actually getting booed a lot because he wasn't playing kind of the hits.
Well, yeah, sure.
When he was touring around this stuff. But no,
I read something. He wasn't impressed with this release. I can't remember if that was the album art or if that was the actual recording, but he wasn't too happy about it.
Well, I love the recording. I think it's great. I think every song on here is just incredible. And yeah, there's a little guitar masturbation, but it's Jimi Hendrix, and if anybody's gonna do it,
he's allowed to.
He's allowed. Yeah, exactly.
Every time you guys say that word, I'm going to insert from Blink-182 where Tom's talking about.
What word? Masturbation?
Yep.
And click.
Surprisingly, it's only when we're talking about this album. So that'll save me some time. All right.
Well, I'll bring it up again then, I guess.
No, don't. I got 26 Rolling Stones records to listen to. No.
There'll be some saxophone solos all over that thing.
I can't wait. That Let It Rip song, that's a badass sax.
That's a great song, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so I mean, yeah, this is Machine Gun is I see why you
Machine Gun's top tier.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah.
Dude, I love Who Knows, but it doesn't need to be 9 minutes long.
Sure.
Like I know how to play, a bit of that one, like because I had the music and I learned it. But like, yeah, at some point I was just like, yeah, I don't need to learn any more of this. It's 9 minutes long.
Right? Just play what you know, and then play that for 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And everyone will be like, "Oh, wow, check that out."
Yeah.
All right, Joe, what's your number 3?
RE Experience, the original. I mean, to me, it's just a beautiful album. It's got I love psychedelic Jimmy, and The Wind Cries Mary is possibly, it's one of my favorite songs of his. Like, it's just lyrically, like my favorite Jimi Hendrix songs tend to be like more ballads, because I feel like with his lyrics, and he always throws, like, at least on the original ones, he would like throw that phasey sound on his vocals, and then his guitar is just kind of dancing around doing its own little melody with the pretty lyrics. And I don't know, his ballads really kind of do it for me. Like, you can hear all those R&B bands that he played with when he was a backing man when you hear his ballads.
Well, I was gonna save this for the top songs, but I guess I'll bring it up now because you mentioned the lyrics. You hear the name Jimi Hendrix, you automatically think guitar, but like the dude wrote some really great lyrics too, and like some of my top songs are based on the lyrics, because I mean some of it's poetry. I mean,
well, he was really obsessed with Bob Dylan. He apparently carried around a Bob Dylan songbook with him for the longest time, and you can tell. And
yeah, for sure.
He was a great lyricist too.
I mean, he didn't like his voice. He always thought his voice was weak, but I think his voice was beautiful. Like, I really think his voice is beautiful.
Oh yeah, 100%. My number 3. Let me go all the way back to the notes here. Is Axis. And it's got a weird opening, but it's not too long, so it works. And it kind of ties into the Up Into the Skies. Like, I get what he was going for with it. Which I love the lyrics for, but the music, it just wasn't, I mean, some of his best. Spanish Castle Rock, or Spanish Castle Music. Magic. Jesus Christ, man. Recording that Blink and that Rolling Stones before this. His vocals are delivered perfectly on this one, and the drum fills on the hang on my darling part. Wait Till Tomorrow is a classic. Again, you hear that opening riff, you just know what you're getting into. I love the shorter bluesy riff and Ain't No Tellin'. Little Wing is a slower jam, but it's a jam for sure. If 6 Was 9 is classic. You Got Me Floating and She's So Fine. You know. Castles Made of Sand, though, top tier. Rainy Wish is okay. The guitar solo in Little Miss Lover is some fine picking. The title track is great. It feels like a free form poem spoken over some amazing 60s music. Like, this is a good record, but kind of like Tim touched on, it's like off a little bit. There's something weird about it for me. But it's still top tier, must hear fucking Hendrix.
For sure.
All right. Joe, what's your number 2?
My number 2 was Electric Ladyland.
Interesting.
I mean it. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up. So oh, you got it up. I just think. I mean, it's gold front to back, really. But have you ever been to Electric Ladylands? Is a great like kind of opening ish track.
Mhm.
Then Burning the Midnight Lamp is one of my favorites of his songs ever. Like Long Hot Summer Night is hot. Like the guitar riff and that's just hot, you know. And then Voodoo Child's Slight Return. I'm not as big a fan of the original Voodoo Child. It gets a little masturbatory. But yeah, like front to back, it's classic, you know.
All right. I guess I'll follow right along with that because it was my number 2 as well. Um, Pointless intro track, but it's fine. Whatever, you know. He did some weird shit. The title track is great. Crosstown Traffic is classic. The love analogies in that song. Voodoo Child didn't even need vocals. Jimmy's guitar sang on that song. I didn't even realize it was 14 minutes long. It was long, or until like 10 minutes in, I was like, holy crap, the song's still going. Like it's so good. Little Miss Strange was kind of eh. The riffs are great, but the vocals. I love the tempo changes in Gypsy Eyes. Burning the Midnight Lamp sounded off to me. I don't know if it was the production, but something was just off in the mix. I did enjoy Rainy Day. There's a lot of stuff happening instrument wise on this one. I didn't even mind the tenor sax in it. That's how a sax should be used. 1983 is epic. I'll talk about this one in an upcoming video. Subscribe for that one. Still, my notes are all out of order now. Still raining. That guitar dude was a god. I love House Burning Down. Was there a hidden political meaning in this song? That's what I got out of it. All Along the Watchtower. I mean, come on. If you're watching this video, you know how amazing that song is already. There's a couple of throwaway filler tracks like The Gods Made Love and Moon, but overall, this one is about as consistent as my number 1 as far as Jimmy records go. It's a must hear. My number 2. All right, Tim. There's no way we're going to have a 3-way tie, is it? No, we're all going to have.
No, and I'll be the odd one out. It looks like on that one. My number 2 is going to be Are You Experienced? Going into this discography, I thought I knew what my top 3 would be, and I didn't think this one was going to make it. But if I can just read you my notes real quick. Purple Haze. I've never heard it before. Manic Depression. classic. Hey Joe, classic. Love or Confusion, classic. May This Be Love, it's a trippy ballad. I Don't Live Today, underrated classic. The Wind Cries Mary, classic. Fire, classic. Foxy Lady, I mean, that album's classic. I asked this question in the Doors video. I'm going to ask it again now. Greatest debut album ever? It's definitely in the conversation.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's up there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter that your local rock radio station plays Purple Haze every hour on the hour, every day for the last 25 years. Hearing it here, it still rips.
I mean, it's the last like 50 years, 60 years, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, this whole album is just, it's amazing. It is an amazing album.
I guess
and you definitely hear it.
As a drummer, the drums on Fire are fire.
I mean, Mitch Mitchell he's not my favorite of the 60s British drummers, but he's possibly the best.
That song was on Rock Band, and I couldn't do that shit expert drums. That one was above me.
Yeah. My favorite drum pattern on this album would actually be Manic Depression. That little Tom Philly's doing throughout the verses is so cool. Yeah, I mean, put it on and turn it up loud. It's a great album.
I guess I'll follow up because this is my number one. What else can you say? I mean, this discography starting out with Purple Haze. I mean, it's Purple Haze, Love, Manic Depression, which is a topic that wasn't discussed very often in the 60s, I'm sure. This album is a must-hear Jimmy. I mean, you got Hey Joe, Foxy Lady, The Wind Cries Mary, May This Be Love,
It's
Fire.
a greatest hits album.
Yeah, that's what my notes say. It might as well be a greatest hits. Love the backing vocals in Hey Joe, makes it much more haunting. Fire is a classic. It's chaotic. It's loud. The drums, it rocks. Third Stone is trippy and nails that otherworldly feel. It has like an Egyptian guitar riff at one point.
Mm-hmm.
It's sexy. It's unique. The intro to Foxy is iconic. You hear that intro, you know what's coming. That breakdown in Are You Experienced?
It's a train.
Is it Ed Connick? This album is essential if you're a Jimmy fan, and even if you aren't, it's just
if you're a music fan.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's a must.
And I thought I had it on vinyl. That pisses me off. So now I got to go get that one. All I got smash hits.
I've got an original copy of that one that my dad bought for like $2.
I'll buy it from you for $5.
No, I'm good. I'm okay. I'll send you a CD for $5.
Yes,
I have it on CD already.
All right, Tim. I like this. I like where this is going. What's your number 2, Tim?
Well, my number 2 we've already discussed. My number 1 is Electric Ladyland. It is an absolute masterpiece, front to back. I don't know if you get any more iconic than that guitar intro to Voodoo Child Slight Return. That is Jimi Hendrix right there. And I mean, really, yeah, Crosstown Traffic is great. Have you ever been to Electric Ladyland is great. That'll get stuck in your head easily. Gypsy Eyes, amazing. Burning a Midnight Lamp, amazing. 1983, amazing. All Along the Watchtower is one of his biggest singles, and it's like buried deep on this album. It's so good. Long Hot Summer Night is so catchy. It's been stuck in my head all day. I don't mind Little Miss Strange. It fits. It's give the bass player some. Let him sing a song. If Keith Richards can sing a song on a Stones album, then Noel Redding can sing a song. It's okay.
No Reddings, no Keith Richards though.
Well, sure, but the sentiment is there.
I get you.
Yeah. No, this is just an amazing, amazing masterpiece of an album that has been studied for over 50 years and will continue to be studied for over 50 years. It's one of the greatest rock and roll albums of the 60s. When we get to that meat grinder, this one's going to get pretty high up on the list. And that was an amazing decade for music.
I'm dreading the 60s meat grinder.
An amazing decade for music.
Yeah, it's probably the best, right? Or at least up there. It's close.
I don't know, like the 80s were surprisingly good.
Yeah, the 80s were pretty great, but I think
Yeah.
the 60s were the best. Like, I don't know, my opinion, but like
the last half of the 20th century was rich in recording that is going to live forever.
Yeah, well, part of that's probably because we had like things to record with, or more things to record with.
Of course. But even when you get outside of rock and roll and you get into any of the other genres, yeah,
even
jazz.
Country. Like, I hate country, but like country had in the 60s
and the 70s,
in the 70s, yeah, there was good country.
Yep.
All right.
No, I love this album, and as classic as the first album is, I do think that this is even better.
So Joe's is Axis, Bold as Love.
I mean,
we each pick our favorite different
all
Jimmy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I feel like this is a perfect psychedelic record. Like, it's like this record is a journey, like from EXP all the way to Bold as Love. It's a journey. It's like it's a ride the whole time. That it feels like he thought of this one front to back. To me, like he thought of it front to back as I want this to be a roadmap, and this album just feels like that to me. Like even Spanish Castle Magic, Wait Until Tomorrow, like if 6 was 9, like I don't know, it's Castles Made of Sand is one of his best songs. But yeah, to me, this one out of the original 3 are my favorites, but out of the original 3, I feel like this one just seems like a fuller concept as an album.
That's true. Yeah.
And I know EXP is weird, but I really like weird stuff. And it's I've listened to it on a surround sound, which is not in surround sound, it's in stereo, but it still feels like it's like swirling around your head, and it's pretty rad. Like this album, as far as like just as an artist, like this is the one that's influenced me the most out of his whole catalog, I feel.
It's crazy to think what else he could have done.
Well, I mean, it's something to think about, because it's like, where would he have gone? And that's
Sure.
what I was really interested to hear, is like some of those other releases, because that was stuff he was working on. I don't know that most of it would have ever been released, at least not in those forms. But like that was stuff that he was working on, and it's like, he could have gone on to like really do some great things, or he could have like been like Eric Clapton and just got drunk for a while and then got
something tells me he would have
dickhead.
chosen the former, though, and like would have probably worked with Miles Davis at some point.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
And
like, who knows what would have come out of that?
Yeah, that would have been rad. Yeah.
ODD always throwing shade at Eric Clapton. Colquist not even here. Eric Clapton got some shade.
Dude, I love Eric Clapton. I love heroin Clapton. Eric Clapton, when he was on heroin, was amazing. I don't like drunk Clapton, and I don't like sober Clapton. Heroin Clapton, though, was like the best.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have any final thoughts, closures?
I mean, if you're unaware of Jimi Hendrix, do yourself a favor and just go get anything and start listening. Because this is one of the most important artists of the 20th century.
I wouldn't say get
Arguably the most.
anything.
Say it
I would
again.
say I wouldn't say anything. I would get like the three
Oh,
albums
sure,
that he released that he kind of had more say on.
But but even though, like, say you had never heard any Jimi Hendrix at all, you could go get like Valley of Neptune and still be blown away. And then when you go back in the, and you get Are You Experience and Axis and stuff, then you're gonna be like, but really any of they're all great because they're Jimmy. It's just,
And I'm
Yeah.
going to go on record and say that Jimi Hendrix is the most popular left-handed guitarist from the state of Washington who died at the age of 27.
That's a reach, but yeah, I can get behind that.
I don't know. I think not in 2023. I think these kids, they don't know about no Jimi Hendrix.
Well, they don't know about anything else either. So
They know the 90s. There's like a 90s revival now.
Dude,
Yeah.
the '90s are in. Like
Yeah.
I go dancing fairly often, and I get compliments on it sometimes, and I realize at some point it's because I dance like a raver from the '90s, and everybody's like into the '90s, and it's weird because I think it's because I lived it. I feel like the '90s kind of sucked, but
I would agree with that.
No, I love them.
At least like the second half for sure. Like the first half was pretty good.
1998 is when it died for me, I think.
Yeah.
95, 94.
See, I'm Green Day, Offspring, Weezer, so you got
You
off
had a
by
couple
that
extra
point.
years, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there was great music in the '90s for me, but like the majority of popular music, I just can't get behind. I've tried. And
But I'm sure there was a lot of crap in the 60s too that people just don't talk about it now. We didn't know about it because it was.
well, no, that's totally true. That's totally true. But in the '60s, I think I just generally like when I listen to like things that were on pop radio in the '60s, I like it more.
I like
Whereas
90s
like
pop.
all you have to do is go to Daphne and listen to TK 101, and they're still playing the exact same playlist that they did in 1999, and it's like, yeah,
You gotta have your
you're like,
Rush's Tom Sawyers. You gotta have your Black Hole Suns. Your
yeah,
Purple
yeah, it's
Haze.
like
Purple
it's all the same.
Haze.
It's all the same. Like last time I was there, I was borrowing my stepdad's car, and he didn't have way for me to play any kind of thing off my phone, so I just was listening to TK 101. I'm like, man, this has not changed one bit since I lived here, almost 20 years ago.
Well, and I'm here to tell you that the local radio station here in the other corner of the country does the exact same thing. It's all just the corporate playlists that they've been sticking to since the 90s.
Nope.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. Like, subscribe. We're gonna list our top 7 favorite Jimi Hendrix songs, and then we're gonna discuss this album art. A whole lot of portraits.
A whole lot of album art.
You know how we feel about portraits here on ODD, so stick around for that. It's gonna be entertaining. With that, be safe and make good decisions.